This channel is for educational purposes only. Make sure you do your own due diligence before making any investments. And there is inherent risk in trading, so it's speculative. Just make sure you keep that in mind. Hey guys, it's Joe. I'm going to do a update on the market and run through a number of ETFs in different markets. I'm actually in a hotel room right now doing this from the road, but I wanted to make sure I gave a quick market update. So let's start with the spider. And I've only got two charts up. I've got a weekly on the left and a daily on the right. I wanted to make sure I covered multiple time frames, but I think these are the two most important time frames on the indices that I'm going to show you. I think these are the two most important right now. On the left side, we see the 18 and the 40 week still on a really good trend here. There's a little bit of a slowdown in the momentum as the ADX has dropped down under 25 for the first time in quite a while. And if you notice, the price has made a higher high on the weekly over the last few months, and the ADX has made a lower high. So there's some slowing of momentum, and the fact that we're dropping down under 25 is maybe a little bit of cause for concern, but we always look for price to confirm the action of the momentum and not the other way around. So I wouldn't pre-guess anything. As long as it stays above a rising 18 week, I think we're fine. If we make another push to the upside and the momentum continues to drop, that might be a little bit more of an alarming sign. So also, if you look at the daily chart on the right, we're kind of in a range. The 18 and the 40 are flat, and price is just going above and below the moving averages, not showing any respect for those moving averages. So there's really no trend right now on the daily, and you can see that by the real low ADX down into like 11 or 12. It's confirmation that there's no real trend right now. Let's go ahead and go to the Qs. This is a little bit different. It has been trending to the upside, but it's made a very minor new high on the weekly chart, and you can see this peak here just above 340. But if you look at the MACD, it made a significantly lower high, and ADX made a significantly lower high. So I think this index has lost a lot more momentum than something like the spider. But it still looks to me like something that would be more like a trading range with support down in the 300 to 304 area. And it might end up being a little bit higher. This 315 to 320 held the last time. So we might end up having a tighter range between 320 and 340. But just the momentum signs just suggest that I think we're going to see more of this sort of sideways action in the near term. Let's look at the Russell. I think this is pretty impressive. In fact, I want to look at just the weekly by itself. Look at how massive this breakout was and how strong the ADX reading was on the move to the upside. And then we've just been pausing here without any signs of distribution or any selling strength whatsoever. And, MACD is trying to work its way down. ADX has worked itself down to a low level without price going down at all. And that's usually a pretty good sign. So I'm definitely expecting more upside in this some point down the road. And it might not be that far off, but it's also possible we're just going to continue to do what it's been doing. Also notice on this chart, every time it drops down, there's a spike low on the candle. You see all these spikes down here. And I think that's a good sign that there's buyers underneath. Let's look at the Dow Jones. The DIA, I really don't bring this up very often, but the fact of the matter is obviously an important index, especially right now where value has basically been outperforming growth. And when that's the case, you should expect the Dow to outperform. And if look at the ADX and what that's been doing on the weekly chart, you notice how it crossed above 25 about a month ago, and it's rising pretty steadily at 33. That's very good sign, good confirmation on a MACD basis. And we have this parallel line look with the 18 and the 40 on the weekly, suggesting to me that this is a pretty solid trend right now. The daily chart looks a little, it's got some volatility. It's got low ADX on this time frame. So there's really, again, on the daily chart right now, I'm not seeing a lot of trends. It's more of a neutral pattern, and this has resistance up around 347, 348. Let's look at gold. I do actually want to look at the I want to show you the monthly chart on this because it made a huge turnaround, broke out, back in 2019 and made a really big run up. And then look at how it came down and found support at the 18-month moving average with really strong momentum conditions in place. And then if we switch to the weekly, just recently we saw this opposing trend trigger just over the last 2-3 weeks. And we're seeing a lot of stocks in golds really starting to emerge out of here. I think what we should expect, though, is probably some kind of a little peak and then maybe another little bottom, and it might end up being a little bit more deeper like that, something along those lines. I don't expect it to just break out and run. I would think we're going to get some kind of a consolidation in here because this was sort of a steep sell-off. But I think the bias is back to the upside in gold, and I think there's pretty good support underneath. Look at the oil chart. A lot of strength. Once this got through this resistance here, it's made a really nice run. And notice how it's been consolidating without really giving back much. There's really not a lot of sign of sellers here. ADX has held up incredibly well during the consolidation pattern. I think if it can get through this resistance here, 19.5, 20, it probably goes another leg. When I look at the gold, the actual oil chart, it's around 65, I think, is resistance. And if it gets through that, there's room up to about 75 or 80. Let's go ahead and look at copper, because I think I brought up copper a while back. Copper has made a massive move to the upside. And if you notice, just recently, look at the volume in this copper ETF. Massive volume peak after a big run to the upside and a big red bar reversal. I think that's a pretty good sign that there's an intermediate term top in place. I wouldn't suggest that it's anything more than that because the ADX condition and the momentum on this is very, very strong. I wouldn't expect any kind of a big drop, but it probably needs to take some time off and consolidate some. I also wanted to throw in this is the agricultural ETF. It's all of, so it's gold, corn, soybeans, and wheat kind of all wrapped up together. They've all made a really big move. And this also did the same type of reversal pattern. So we're starting to see some of these commodities probably make a little bit of a peak in the short term. Inflation has been kind of in the headlines. So it makes sense that people are probably taking profits on this move. But again, based on the momentum conditions, I would only consider this an intermediate term peak and not any kind of a major top because there should be more upside coming down the road. Finally, I want to look at the Bitcoin using the Grayscale Bitcoin Trust. And I actually, on the weekly chart, I did go ahead and overlay the fib grid. The 61% retracement was right around 28.5 for this index. And this holds true also for the Bitcoin itself. It was around 30,000. It came down and found support there. And typically when you make a big drop like this after a big run and you try and hold the 618, a lot of times you'll form a range between the 618 retracement and the 38% retracement and sort of bounce around for now. My concern is if we spend a lot of time in the lower end and we don't bounce up and we don't get back above the 50% retracement here pretty quickly, we're going to put a lot of pressure on this 61% level. And if that ends up being the case, then I think it'll be like water building on a dam. And I think there's a increased likelihood that we won't hold this support level. So just something to be on the lookout for. Very violent selling. Definitely a concern that an intermediate term top is in place. If it can hold the support area, then we're looking at something even uglier than that. So anyway, that was the quick update for the week on some different markets. Post any comments or questions, and we'll see you next time.